Hey guys, it's Angie and welcome back to my Flosstube channel, my channel about cross stitching and sometimes other things. Today, some of those other things might be book related. Welcome to old viewers and subscribers who are returning. I'm happy to have you back. And if you are a new viewer or a new subscriber, welcome, and I'm glad you're here. Okay, there's gonna be some background noise. My husband and my oldest child are gaming in the other room. They don't normally do that tonight, but they're just having some guy time, which is great because they need it, because oldest is hopefully gonna be moving out this summer to start his own life, which is a little sad. And I say hopefully because I'm very excited for my kids to be able to grow up and start doing things on their own and experiencing what the world has to offer without the limitations that mom and dad will put on top of them. Anyway, so they're taking some time to do some extra guy stuff. Hold on a sec. Sorry. So our dog, he switches between sleeping in our room and sleeping in one of my daughter's rooms, but he's kind of finicky and he has preferences depending on the day. So at bedtime, we leave the basement door open and I hang out here for a little while, and if he wants to go to her room, he'll actually wander down the stairs. But if we try to force him to go down there, he runs up to our room. So he makes the decision, I guess, each night which room he's gonna stay in. So I was just making sure that she knew he was down there so that he could go in there and he's not sitting in a dark basement all by himself when we close the door and everything. Okay, weird explanations, weird stuff. All right, it is February 1st, which means that I get to go through and show you everything that I did in January. Not everything. I'm going to show you what I did over the last week, and then I'm going to give you my stats for January, because I decided this year, now that I have had a full year of doing magical stitches and I've added some other things in and I'm a little bit more versed on my Flosstube and tracking and everything, I decided this year I'm going to do my monthly stats, which are very messy on my book here. But I think I showed you at the beginning of the year that I put a tracker sheet like this, which if you ever watch Sammy J's videos, her tracker sheet is much more elaborate and fancy than mine. I actually got this idea from her. It tracks how many days during the month I work on a specific project. I do not have all my projects on here. I kind of added them as I worked on them. And then I added some that I didn't work on because I thought I might work on them, but then I didn't touch them during the month of January. So this idea I got from Sammy, and I actually really enjoyed it. But I thought I'd quickly just go over my stats. I don't think I worked on 7 of my whips, and well, 6 of them were no, just kidding, 6, 5, 4 of them were whips and 3 of them were new starts. I'm so good at tracking, can you tell? I worked on Middle Earth, and surprisingly, I only worked on that for 3 days in the entire month, which is kind of surprising because other things just kind of took over. For Pavan, I worked on that for 11 days of the month. I worked on Sasquatch twice. I worked on Dark Queen 6 times. I worked on Magic Study 11 times. 11sies I worked on twice. Sherlock I worked on, nope, I didn't actually total 11sies, it looks like. And I didn't, oh my goodness, see, I didn't track this very well because I know I worked on Avatar twice. 11sies I worked on once. Sherlock I worked on twice, and Mythbusters I worked on once. Okay, yeah, sorry. All right, so really quick, before I bore you guys all to death, before you get to see my stitching, let me just give you a breakdown. So, Sasquatch, and you'll see this in a minute, I did 700 stitches on Sasquatch. I did a little over 500 on Sherlock. I did 1,140 on Mythbusters. I did 1,537 on Avatar, 7,030 stitches on Magic Study. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. I did 8,112 stitches on Pavan. Holy cow. Part of that, though, is because of 24 hours of cross stitch marathon. I wouldn't have done that much on it had I not been doing the marathon. 3,000, a little over 3,000 on Middle Earth, and about 3,500 on Dark Queen. And I finished Dark Queen's part 5 this week, so it was ready to go when part 6 released today. So for total in January, I did 25,837 stitches. Holy cow. I mean, that's all I can say. When I totaled it up, I knew I'd done at least 10,000 because I knew I'd done so many on Pavan. 25,000 is insanity. I don't know if I can keep that up. That was craziness, but I don't feel like I actually took any time away from my family or things that needed to get done. We still had dates to go do things. I got dinners made, house stayed clean. Laundry fell a little behind, but that's not because of stitching, it's because I hate laundry. Yeah, so that is what I did. So let me quickly show you. I added some more to Sherlock because I wanted to make sure I had a decent amount of stitches on it for Nerdapalooza. So here I am. Oh, I don't have anything fun to stick behind it, so I'll stick my planner. So there we go. And that top thing will say, you do see, you just don't observe. But I didn't want to move the Q-snap to finish the black, so I went down to do this. And all of this is there's a lot of back stitching in this. Like there's a ton of back stitching in here. And the letters up here on the pattern do not have a border charted. I actually backstitched a border around it because the stitches looked so sparse. It suggested doing 2 over 2 on 14 count or 28 count. This is 28 count, this is 2 over 2. So I outlined them to make them look just a little bit better. And I think they do. And there's, I mean, like I said, it's not like it's all over that I'm doing that. So that was Sherlock. I don't know when I'll pull this out again. Mainly this is gonna be a lot like Grimm and Giant Harry Potter. Well, Giant Harry Potter I'll likely work on a lot just because I like it, but this will be one to fit prompts. Or if Nerdapalooza happens again or something like that, that's what Sherlock's for. So this one's gonna get put away for a little while, probably. You know what, let me pull this out of the Q-snap because it's at a point now where you just have to see her in all of her glory, and I'm so excited about the new part. So here is Dark Queen, and if you'll remember, the last time I showed you, I just hadn't finished the leaves. I have not done the back stitching. There's some back stitching that needs to happen in the leaves and a little bit that I never got around to on the fish, but I'm waiting to do that on a day when maybe I just am like, I want to work on it, but I don't have, I'll just backstitch them. So the new pattern, the new part dropped today, and it's a choose your own adventure for what they call, where you can either have like a burst of magic up here or a skull. How many of you can guess which one I chose? I'm going dark with that one, and I'm doing the skull. And it calls for some DMC étoile if you want to put with your DMC black. But I don't want to order a toile or go to the store to buy it because it snowed here, and like it snowed heavy, and I don't want to drive that far in the snow in a state where I don't know if people are super confident in their snow driving skills. But I do have some black petite treasure braid that I accidentally ordered, and I think I'm going to use that because there's like a giant circle pattern around her head, and then it like emanates from the skull. Super cool. So I think I'm going to use the black treasure braid. It's going to be so fun. So this is going to get worked on hopefully this week if I can. I think I'm going to use this after today for Monopoly, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay, I also, like I said, I put about 700 stitches in Sasquatch. Mainly, I got a lot of this down, and then I found a gigantic mistake in here, and I ended up having to unpick, I want to say like 50 or so stitches, which isn't a big deal, except they're kind of tiny stitches. And so I ended up unpicking them, and thank heavens none of this was a mistake. It was just that I'd lined up a small grouping of stitches over here off of a wrong corner. So I unpicked those, got that all worked out, so I added in here and in here, and he's looking pretty snazzy. Loving my Sasquatch. I wanna sit and work on him more. I want to find a reason to just focus on him. I sometimes wonder if I shouldn't just assign a day. Like on this day, I'm only working on this, whether it fits into a prompt or not. But I'm not sure. And last but not least, I worked on some more magic study. So I put a couple stitches in today. Sorry, I have a hair on my nose. I put a couple stitches in today down here for a prompt for homework for magical stitches. So, and I've got my, as I beat myself up, my Area 51 needle minder there, and I've got some new needle minders and a new bag on its way because I just needed something. And I found out today that my new exercise bike has shipped, so I'm so excited. Okay, so now that I've shown you the stitching, I thought I would talk just a little bit about my groups and what I'm doing. I have a lot going on, and right now I feel like I can handle it, but when I go through it all, it's probably gonna sound crazy, which is exactly how I felt when I would listen to people talk about all the groups that they were in and all the activities that they were doing last year when I'd first started in Flosstube land. But it's so much fun. Sorry, I have this one hair and it keeps tickling my nose, but it's so much fun. So magical stitches, we were just sorted into our teams yesterday. I am in team the gods. There's titans, gods, and demigods. I am in gods. I'm excited about that. And so now, instead of just having some random activities that all of January, each week, they were just giving us some random activities just so we would get used to stitching to a prompt. Well, now we're going back to okay, you've got your weekly homework, which is your series of things. You've got your extra credit for reading and extra credit for stitching, plus whatever other events that pop up. So for example, homework for this week, you have 6 tasks that you need to complete by stitching 300 stitches each on something that fits these tasks. So for example, you have to stitch on something with sand, something with a sock or stocking in the color blue, a whip with an animal and a human on it, a whip with a dessert on it, and a whip that has something in it that you would want to do as a camp activity, and then explain why. Because we're at Camp Half Blood, summer camp. you are supposed to stitch 300 stitches on each of these prompts. If you do not have something that fits that, then you get to go into penalty stitches. And last year penalty stitches was, if let's say it was 100 stitches for the prompt, you would have to do 150. So that the amount required plus 50%. If it was 300, then you'd have to do 450 stitches. If it was 1,000 stitches, then you'd have to do 1,500. Does that make sense? But this year, because we are working as a team and our stitches are added up to use to create weapons or whatever against other teams, doing penalty stitches would actually be a benefit instead of a punishment. So now, if you're going to do penalty stitches, you are required to stitch on your oldest whip and only your oldest whip. So for me, for example, that would be Northern Nights. That's my oldest whip. So if I couldn't meet the prompt on here, I'd have to pull that one out and I could do my stitches on that. We had to go in at the beginning of the year and put a whip album together with all of our projects that we have that we would work on throughout the year. Well, because of this, now we also had to go back and notate which one was our oldest so that we can't pull a fast one, if that makes sense. And then you only have to stitch the same amount. It's just you can't switch projects. Whereas for this one, I'm using 3 different projects. I'm stitching on Middle Earth for sand because it butts up, you know, it's an ocean and land. There's going to be sand on the beach along the ocean. Giant Harry Potter, Dobby has a sock. Giant Harry Potter, there's blue leaves on the side. There's animals and humans in Giant Harry Potter, and it has Quidditch or a maze, hedge maze. Both of those are activities I wouldn't mind doing at camp. You. My daughter just brought me some ice cream because she's nice. And then I do not have a single whip in my collection that has a dessert on it except for Magic Study, which is unfortunate because I wanted Magic Study to only be used on my full coverage focus piece for magical stitches, but I didn't want to start something new. I've already started so many other new things, so I just said, okay, it's only 300 stitches, so I did that on Magic Study. That's what I did today that you saw at the bottom there. But I don't plan to use Magic Study for any of my prompts in the future. I cannot double dip it, so those 300 stitches cannot go towards the full coverage part, and that's why I want to use it only for full coverage. For extra credit, we were given 5 books to read. Of course, book number 1 is Percy Jackson, the first one in the series. Next month, we'll get to read Percy Jackson 2. I actually did read that. I listened to it. I finished it today while I was doing all my stitching. And then there's 4 other books just with different prompts. Like one of them is a needlework mystery. I've never read a needlework mystery. Okay, here we go. You don't have to do this. It's just bonus, and I like reading, so that one I actually really like. And then there's extra credit stitching, which is you get to stitch 500 stitches to fight a Minotaur, 1,000 stitches to fight a Chimera, and 1,500 stitches to fight a Minotaur. You can do one of those, you can do all 3 of them, you can do as many of them as you want. Each one earns you a bonus of some sort against another team. However, if you do all 3 of them as a group, you can also get a special healing thing, and you can do, again, you can do as many or as few as you want. So there's that. In Monopoly, for semi-sane stitchers, I decided to join the Monopoly craze. It sounded so much fun, like so much fun last year, so I joined in. I'm doing traditional because this is my first year doing it. Basically, you roll the dice. You have this virtual board that they've put together that has different designers and things on it. You move that many spaces, whatever space you land on, you do the amount of stitches or whatever it says. If you landed in jail, then there's something you do for that. If you land on, what is it, community chest, they call it something else in the game, lily pad and stash diet or something like that. Anyway, then you ask them for a card, they give you the card with whatever it is you're supposed to do. You roll the dice, you do the amount of stitches on the space you landed on. Once you finish those stitches, then you've collected that space, and then you can roll the dice again if you're doing the counting. If you're not doing the counting part, you can only roll once a day. If you're doing the counting part, then you can then roll the dice and move on. So I have completed 4 dice rolls. I'm halfway done with my 5th die roll, and I actually just kind of double dipped. So every time I stitch one of my things for homework in Magical Stitches, I use those stitches for the die roll in Semi-Sane Monopoly, because hey, why not? That way you're not wasting stitches, if that makes sense. Double dipping is great between groups, but not in the same group. My hope though is to be able to pick one of my whips that I can use solely for Semi-Sane Stitching Monopoly when I'm done with my homework, which will be tonight. I'll finish my homework. Let's see, there's that. And then Magic Study. So it's funny because I got 7,000 stitches on Magic Study. It's my full coverage Fanatics focus piece, which is 21,000 stitches on it in the year 2021. I have no doubt that I'll get to that. But it's also my focus piece for Magical Stitches. And at the beginning of the year, they said, for your focus piece, you need to stitch 7,000 stitches to earn a weapon to use against another team. I thought that meant that you had to stitch all 7,000 in the month of January, that each month you had to do 7,000 stitches. Turns out when I was listening to their homework video this morning that they posted on YouTube, it was not a you have to have it done in the month, it's just every time you hit 7,000. So I probably went a little crazy on that, thinking, oh, I've got to get it done, when I didn't need to. But now that I know that I can, then maybe I'll try again. You know, for February, we'll see. But I won't feel so, gotta get it for that. And then Middle Earth is my full coverage focus piece for the month of February in Semi-Sane. So I do need to pull that out and get some work on it, which that's going to be the last one I work on for homework tonight. So I will work on that tonight, and then I will finish. So for that one, for my February focus piece in Semi-Sane, you have to update that one every 1,000 stitches. So I will pull it out to do the 300 in it tonight for my homework. And then I won't use that one for Monopoly because I will need to get it to 1,000 to use for the focus piece. Does that make sense? So for anybody who may be interested, Magical Stitches is actually closing its group. It's going to be a closed group as of today. That way the teams don't get altered after today. It takes a lot of time to train brand new people to the group on how to post things, because they have a specific way that they want you to post, to answer questions. It takes a lot, and there's only a few people running the group, and they work very hard. They work so hard to try to answer questions, make sure the challenges and the homework are understandable, grading it all to make sure people followed the rules. It's exhausting just watching them go through this. And so they are closing it up. However, Percy Jackson is a 5-book series. So I believe it's in June or July, the group will open back up again. Anybody who is currently in the group can continue on at the level they're doing, or they can alter it if they want, maybe be a helper instead of on a team if they didn't think that they were doing enough stitches or whatever. And new people can join and jump in and start with the 2nd book series, which is the Roman God series. So I talk a lot about Magical Stitches. I've really, really enjoyed Magical Stitches. I'm really enjoying this year so far. I don't want to talk about something that you guys might be like, ooh, I want to jump in. Normally you would be able to, but as of today, they're closing the group until the summer. And so as soon as they open the group up again, if you are interested, I will for sure let you know so that you can jump in and join in. Last year it was open the whole year, and it wasn't, you know, people could join randomly whenever they wanted. But because it's a team event and there's just a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, they're closing it down. And I know Semi-Sane Stitches is a closed group. I think you can message certain people to get added, but I don't know all the details on that. So if I can, I'll find out for you if you're interested. Full Coverage Fanatics, if I remember correctly, is open right now, and they have some fun. They do bingo, they do book challenges where you're stitching prompts that fit certain books. The one that I'm doing, the yearly 21,000 in 2021, that's the only thing I'm doing in full coverage, and it's working for me. There's lots of groups out there, so just hope you can join one if you want and find one and have a good time. All right, this video is a lot longer than I had wanted it to be. I don't have a lot of space on my phone, so I do have to keep these short. So I am going to say thank you for watching. I hope I didn't completely bore you to death at the end with all of the stitching there. But you know, you don't have to watch the boring parts if you don't want to. And I will talk to you guys next week with hopefully a bunch more stitchy progress.